One. Before we reconvene, I would like to invite those who would care to join Mrs. Sutphin in a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time to come together. Lord, we thank you for our children we serve. We thank you for all of our staff members. Lord, we ask that you be with us tonight as we make decisions in their best interest. We ask that you continue to bless all those affiliated with our school system and our community. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just as a point to remind everyone, we're in a very nice large room tonight, so if you could please speak into your microphones so that everyone can hear and we can pick it up on the broadcast. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to reconvene and to approve the agenda.
Motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Badgett. To have a second?
Second.
Second from Mrs. Sutphin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in open session. Dr. Reeves, we have some guests you want to welcome tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. It's good to see you all tonight. I'd like to welcome all of our guests that are with us, both online and here in person at Pilot Mountain Elementary School. I want to thank Ms. Dana Drawn for hosting us tonight, along with her staff. I also want to thank David Brown and his staff for getting all the technical work completed, David. I know it's an all-day affair. Thank you and Chet and all of your technicians. I also want to thank Kim Freeman, my administrative assistant, who works tirelessly to make sure these meetings come off without a hitch. And obviously, we move from place to place each month, and that takes a lot of logistics. So thank you, Kim, for all you do to make these meetings successful. So we do have several recognitions tonight. I'm going to start with our Leader of the Month. Ms. Spicer, thank you for being here tonight. Board members, our next recognition involves a couple of our students. And I'll wait on our students.
I think here they come.
Yeah, come right here. So, board members, we have two early college high school students, and I'm assuming you're Victoria Griffin. Is that correct, Victoria? Who you have with you tonight? Nice for you to be here, Mr. Bradley. You have been selected as a youth tour delegate for the Surry Yadkin Electric Membership Corporation. What an honor. And you'll be participating in a week-long virtual program this summer, and scholarship options will be available after your senior year. Excited that you're taking advantage of this opportunity, and your principal is going to say a few words about you. Mr. Beamer?
Thank you, sir. Tonight, I am pleased to recognize two of our Surry Early College High School Spartan leaders. It is my great pleasure that I recognize Victoria Griffin and Nancy Garcia Villa. Both of these young ladies have been selected as delegates for the Surry Yadkin Electric Youth Tour program. For this year's virtual youth tour, Nancy and Victoria will have the chance to connect with their peers, engage in interactive activities, hear from their elected officials, and learn about the many ways their electric co-op serves their community. Youth Tour will mainly take place this week, the week of June 20th, with other opportunities for youth tourists throughout the year. Participating students will also be eligible to apply for 3 scholarships in addition to any opportunities offered by their Surry Yadkin Electric Co-op. Tonight, I would like to introduce to the board Dr. Reeves and our Surry County Schools community, Victoria Griffin. In attendance with Victoria tonight is Mr. Bob Bradley. Victoria is a member of the Surry Community College History Club, Scholars of Global Distinction, Surry Early College High School Interact Club, and the Surry Early College High School Student Council. The Spartan family is proud of both of these young ladies as they continue to lead themselves and others. Congratulations.
Victoria, thank you. Congratulations. And I know you're going to represent Surry Early College, your family, community, and this Board of Education with pride. Congratulations. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Bradley. All right. Thank you, Mr. Beamer. Great job.
Thank you.
Board members, our next recognition is to the Surry County Health Department. Tonight we have Samantha Ainge, Maggie Simmons, and Alex Pruitt with us. We want to welcome all 3 of you with us here tonight. The Surry County Health and Nutrition Center has been a vital partner to ensure the health and safety of students and staff through the pandemic. The partnership and insight from Health Director Samantha Ainge has been invaluable to ensure Surry County Schools was prepared and equipped to manage the pandemic. From interpreting and summarizing state DHHS guidance, working with our school nurses who are here with us tonight, offering input on the Surry County Schools Return to Learn plan, focusing on vaccine distribution for staff and essential workers, the Surry County Health and Nutrition Center has been a strong advocate for students and staff in Surry County. The Surry County School Systems would like to thank and recognize Samantha Ainge and her staff for their hard work and dedication to help us keep our students and staff safe. We appreciate them for their expertise and support throughout this time period. And at this time, Dr. Mosley, I would like to invite Mr. Vi to the podium. He has worked directly with this group, and I think you have a resolution to read just after. Mr. Vi?
Thank you, Dr. Reeves. Board members, it is with great pleasure just to say a few words about Surry County Health and Nutrition Center and Samantha Ainge and your team. You know, we have worked closely for a year now. As Dr. Reeves mentioned some things, the return to work plan, working a work plan for employees, return to athletics, the public schools toolkit, some quarantines, isolations, just helping us navigate and interpret the CDC and NCDHHS guidelines, frequent meetings with the superintendents, meeting with principals, weekly meetings with our nurses, going the extra mile in assisting with COVID situations that may be gray within those guidelines and helping us through those. The antigen testing program at our schools, where it's given us an opportunity to test students and staff at the schools. Providing people to help us with the contact tracing, which takes a lot of time. They have probably answered hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions from us, probably most of them coming from me, as we go through this. But I want to tell you, in a timely manner, always making sure that we receive the answer. They've worked with us during the weekdays, weeknights, and weekends. It never stops. It's 24/7. You have supported and guided us through this difficult time, always in a professional manner and with a smile on your face. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vi. I've had the personal pleasure of watching these three ladies for many years and working with them. And I have to tell you, it is amazing the leadership you've provided and what you have done. And it warms my heart to see how much you have grown in your leadership and to know where you are today. And so I personally appreciate you, and I know I speak on behalf of the board. I do have a resolution of appreciation for you. It is hereby resolved by the Surry County Board of Education, whereas the Surry County Health and Nutrition Center has served a critical role in improving public health, and whereas the Surry County Health and Nutrition Center has provided public health guidance and school health support to the Surry County Board of Education and district administrators to safely open schools and keep them open. And whereas the Surry County Health and Nutrition Center has promoted health and wellness throughout the global COVID-19 pandemic and has exemplified unwavering support to promote well-informed decision-making to provide safe schools and safe places for the students and staff of Surry County schools. Whereas the Surry County Health and Nutrition Center has maintained a shared interest in the health and well-being of Surry County school system students and staff by providing supportive school nurses and prioritizing vaccination clinics, which adds another layer of protection for Surry County school staff during the unprecedented COVID-19 health crisis. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Surry County Board of Education expresses its sincere appreciation and gratitude to the Surry County Health and Nutrition Center for their commitment and dedication to supporting education and for their exemplary public service to the citizens of Surry County. Unanimously adopted at Pilot Mountain, North Carolina, this first day of March 2021. Thank you, ladies.
Samantha, Alex, Maggie, heartfelt comments from the Board of Education. This is a small certificate of appreciation. This recognizes your outstanding communication, assistance, and service put forth to vaccinate our school faculty, our staff, And we just really appreciate all you've done to help us during this very difficult time in the history of Surry County, the history of this nation and this world. Thank you for all you've done to get us through. And it's been a huge partnership, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's for you and your
Much.
staff.
Thank you very much. Well, if I could say just I think this is a two-way street. We so appreciate the kind words and recognition. It warms our heart, but we think that we're all in this together. It's definitely a partnership between all of us. And those countless hours we couldn't have done it without you to keep our county safe and to keep those children safe and to do it the right way. So we offer thanks to the board for the support and for the nurses to support and Dr. Reeves and Colonel COVID through all of this as we work together. So truly a team support, I feel, in Surry County. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now it's your turn. Just as we recognize our Surry County Health Department tonight, school board members, I also want to recognize our school nurses for their outstanding leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are approaching 1 year, and it's really difficult to really think about all the things that we've done and all the challenges that we've come through together. Certainly we've not mastered all of them, but we are sitting here today in a school. We feel good about where we are. We feel good about the work that has been done because of you. And I just want you to know that you've played a vital role during this pandemic. And you've served as key support staff for teachers, for students, for parents, for us at the central office. You've taken on leadership roles in your schools. It's just been amazing to watch you work. And I also know, Mr. Vi, that they've worked on the weekends. They've worked around the clock to make sure that you put the physical health and wellness of students and staff first. Not only are you caring and concerned about those physical needs of students and staff, but you're highly skilled leaders. And you've graciously managed the health and well-being of our students and staff during one of the most challenging times in the history of our country. School nurses have worked tirelessly maintaining detailed records, monitoring student and staff return dates, isolations, quarantines, diagnoses. They have ensured administrators and staff were following the health protocols and have provided outstanding guidance with regard to best practice during this health crisis. Some were even involved in the rapid antigen testing pilot, as mentioned earlier. They've been on the front lines and have risen to every challenge with love and hearts of servant leadership. Our school nurses have embodied our leadership framework of leading self first, leading with others, and certainly changing our world with the example they've set. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Neil Atkins to say a few words. Mr. Atkins has been working alongside our school nurses as a director of student services. And Mr. Atkins, I'd like for you to duly recognize these fine ladies.
Thank you, Dr. Reeves. Board members, it's an honor for me to be here before you tonight to celebrate these ladies. And the first thing I'll say about them is, yes, they're school nurses, but most of all, what I've come, I think it should go without saying that we've come to know each other really well over the past 6 months to a year in the work that we've had to do. And what I found is that, yeah, they're school nurses, but they are fantastic people first. And I think we always have to acknowledge that and remember that nothing is better, nothing makes us more successful than having fantastic people, and we have 10 of them as our school nurses. During this pandemic, needless to say, there's been a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty in our schools, sometimes disinformation in our schools, and sometimes just the unknown. And these ladies have served as a calming voice, a calming force in our schools. And for that, we really struggled with that, and they were they were our go-to people to help us to make sure that we had that kind of environment and that we made people feel that it was okay and safe to come to school. As Dr. Reeves said, they've worked nights, weekends, Thanksgiving Day, if you remember that. I had one of the nurses who worked about all day on Thanksgiving Day. They went above and beyond, and never ever heard one complaint. Just there to do the job and to make sure that it got taken care of. This pandemic has thrown a lot of curveballs at us. They've been able to be flexible. They've adjusted to twists and turns and changes, and a lot of those things seem to almost happen daily. And they've even made me realize that maybe I was a little not as flexible as I should be sometimes as well. So again, we all learn from each other, and I've learned a lot from them. They've spent about 6 months now on the front line since September the 21st when we brought students back in the building, and they've never complained once. They go to work, they do their jobs, they're there, and they've helped us to ensure that students and teachers can safely come to school. And sometimes I think it's real easy where we live to take for granted. I have a 7th grader that he gets to go to school when we know across North Carolina there are places where students still haven't stepped in a building. And for that, I will eternally be grateful, because I realize how important that is for my young man. And you just multiply that by about 7,500 across this district. Just important work. And I'll say this, we couldn't do it without them. They're just a fantastic group of professionals. I'm proud of them. I'm proud to be a part of them. I'm proud that that they have me with them. And I just thank them so much for making my job really easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
And it is also my honor to get to read this resolution into the minutes. I love this group of ladies over here. They took care of me for many years in a professional role. As Mr. Atkins said, they are fantastic people, and they are so much more than just a school nurse. A school nurse, the title is just not big enough for everything that you do and all the support that you give, not just to students, but to their families, to the staff in the buildings, to the central office, to everyone. So I loved them all before COVID, and I love you just as much or more after COVID. And as a resolution of appreciation for the Surry County School Nurses, it is hereby resolved by the Surry County Board of Education, whereas children are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow. And whereas all students have a right to have their health needs safely met while in the school setting, and children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school. And whereas Surry County nurses have served a critical role in ensuring Surry County schools could safely open and stay open during the global COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Surry County school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines promoting health and wellness prior to and throughout the global COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Surry County school nurses act as a liaison to the school community, parents, and healthcare providers, and whereas Surry County school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day, now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Surry County Board of Education expresses its sincere appreciation and gratitude to the Surry County school nurses for their commitment and dedication to supporting education and for their exemplary service to the students, staff, and parents of the Surry County school system. Unanimously adopted at Pilot Mountain, North Carolina, this first day of March, 2021.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. And at this time, Mr. Vi and Mr. Atkins, if you'll help me recognize our nurses. We're going to recognize them with a small gift of appreciation. Kim Beverly is our lead nurse. Miss Beverly serves J. Sam Gentry Middle School and White Plains Elementary School. Miss Beverly, if you'll stand, these gentlemen will bring your gift to you. Miss Beverly has been on many, many phone calls, and I remember one of her early visits to the central office back in the summer testing out thermometers. You remember that, Miss Beverly? How many different styles of thermometers have we gone through? Too many to count. Too many to count. And I know you've provided great leadership. She also served on our Return to Learn plan, and really, as all of our nurses know and understand, she's done a great job representing you. So thank you, Miss Beverly. Jan Cass Stevens, nurse at Franklin Elementary School. Thank you, Miss Cass Stevens. I don't think any of us have figured out the fog. Monette Chatton, nurse at Dobson Elementary and Surry Central High School. Thank you, Monette, for your service. April Chilton, school nurse at Copeland Elementary School and Shoals Elementary School. Thank you, Miss Chilton. Marcia Cox, school nurse at Flat Rock Elementary School and Meadowview Magnet Middle School. Alicia Drawn, school nurse at Rockford Elementary School and Surry Early College. Anita Hall, school nurse at Cedar Ridge Elementary and North Surry High. Okay, Miss Hall couldn't be with us. Katie Key, school nurse at Pilot Mountain Elementary and Pilot Mountain Middle School. Danielle Robertson, school nurse at East Surry High School and Westfield Elementary. Last but certainly not least, Amy Schuff from Mountain Park Elementary and Central Middle School. Again, thank you, ladies. We certainly appreciate all you've done, and we really appreciate the partnership between the health department and our school nurses to keep our schools safe and our employees safe. So let's give them another big round of applause. We have one more recognition, and then Miss Ainge has a presentation. You're welcome to leave or you're welcome to stay. So we've got it set up that way. So we have one more recognition. Miss Donna Bledsoe. Step up here, Donna. Ms. Donna Bledsoe, the principal of Cedar Ridge Elementary School, is one of 206 leaders from across the state selected to participate in the inaugural cohort Distinguished Leadership in a Remote Learning Environment. This is a leadership development program for practicing school leaders designed to help school leaders navigate the unique challenges posed by assuring quality learning experiences during a pandemic. She was also featured in the video Instruction in a Remote and Hybrid Learning Environment and Engagement, Equity, and Assessment in a Remote Hybrid Learning Environment. Ms. Bledsoe, we appreciate your leadership in Surry County Schools as a principal at Cedar Ridge Elementary School. Congratulations and thank you for searching out this additional challenge during a difficult time period and sharing your expertise with others. We truly appreciate it and know you represented Surry County Schools with pride.
I'm done. I
Excellent.
graduated last week. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. We have no public comments, Mrs. Freeman. Thank you. At this time, we will recognize Samantha Ainge from the Surry County Health and Nutrition. And welcome. We thank you again for being with us tonight.
Thank you. I'm truly touched. I'm speechless, which, if you know me very well, that's a lot. I usually have a whole lot to say, and I'm going to grab that clicker, I think. So I'll first have to say I'll have to get a little closer to the screen. During this, I've also lost my eyesight. I don't know if that's from staring at screens so much, but I cannot see as much as I used to. So again, thank you so much for those kind words. I cannot say thank you enough for my staff, but I really think that part of the success, I know that a lot of the success is that I have really great staff and you have really great staff, and you put that, there's synergy there. You know, there's just synergy there. And I hear horror stories across North Carolina where that's not there. And so we are so blessed to be in this boat with you all. If we have to be in the middle of a pandemic, what a great group to be with. So thank you. So a little bit, I'd like this to be really informal, so please ask questions and I can go into more detail. We're at a funny time because we're moving away from contact tracing and case investigation as a county and what we were doing several months ago, and really hard into vaccinations. So with Dr. Reeves, I told him I would just kind of do a little brief outline of where we are now, but I'm definitely open to answering any questions. So right now we have 7,368 total people diagnosed with COVID-19, and in Surry County, sadly, we are at 140 deaths. In the past 14 days, we have had 368 new cases. So the part of contact tracing and case investigations, we have moved away from doing the general public. Part of that was because of the increase that we had there for many months. It started soaring up, and there was no way possible with the staff that we had in order to keep up with the demand of COVID. And so at that time, the state pivot our emphasis on vaccinations and decreased with case investigation and contact tracing, except where the schools were involved. And so we tried to really think logically, how can we do that to maximize the efforts of the school and the school nurses, as well as with my staff as we set off for the adventures of vaccinating 70,000 people in Surry County. And so in order to do that, we decided to put our state contact tracers and case investigators working hand in hand with school nurses, and us kind of pulling out a little bit unless there are some complicated cases, so that the work can be done and we're taking out the middleman per se. And so I think we were the first ones kind of to start that in the state, and I hear that it's trickled through the state now, and it's working very well, I think. So with that, with the Surry County Health and Nutrition Center, we have 3 case investigators and 3 contact tracers that are devoted just for the efforts of Surry County. Now, even though we've had several more new cases within Surry County, within the schools, we've had those 10 active cases and 51 close contacts. So with those are the ones where the state contact tracers and case investigators are working hand in hand with the school nurses. And they also bring a robust database that talks about contact tracing and case investigation, which should hopefully continue to keep our schools safe. So these are the total number of cases of COVID-19, and you can see it just increases, which is what we anticipate, right? That we just keep those numbers increasing, although we have seen a decrease. We are not where we were in the summer, but we are much better than we were right after the holidays. This is also another slide that I've shown you before, but I think very interesting, and I think that you find it interesting because it has the ages. And the big thing of what I like to say, try this pointer, is that you can see on the end are our children. And you can see they're kind of proportional, right? This is because of school settings. This is because we're keeping our numbers really low. And it shows that the mitigating factors that are being in the schools with keeping them 6 feet, wearing the mask, the hand sanitizers, doing the contact tracing, case investigating, we're keeping our schools really, really safe. So that number stays low because of the hard work that your people do. So this is by gender. You can see fairly equal. And then there's a lot of look at ethnicity. So we started seeing more disproportional in ethnicity in the beginning of the pandemic. We see less of that now. And so, as I said, we move on to vaccinations. So in Surry County, we have vaccinated around 12,500 people in Surry County. And so we're vaccinating groups 1, 2, and 3, which are healthcare workers, over 65, and then our teachers and our school staff. So that's where we are now. We're really excited to be able to work with the school systems in order to vaccinate our teachers and keep them nice and safe, even though you work in a beautiful setting that helps keep that environment. I think there's a lot of security with a lot of people once they feel that vaccination. And we know that light at the end of the tunnel, a way to get there a little bit faster is to vaccinate our population. So we're excited to be part of that. We are moving into next week at this time. Next week, in which we'll bring in the rest of the frontline workers. So we wanted to make sure that we got our school teachers and our child care before that big surge where we start getting the rest of the essential workers in Surry County. And then we'll be moving into group 4 after that, before we open it up to group 5, which there are still some approvals before we get there. So group 3, as we know, we started that, and the rest of the essential workers will be March 10th. In group 4, those are those persons that are between 16 and 64. And those will be ones with 1 or more high-risk medical conditions. And then group 5 will be the rest of the ones that wish to receive the vaccines. So most of your teachers that we vaccinated received the Moderna vaccine. We did do a few before with some Pfizer, but Moderna has been the majority of what your teachers and staff members have received. And we will continue to work with those as we have the late adopters, and we'll make sure that we save a special place in our hearts and in our vaccination clinic for the teachers and for the staff members, so that we can make sure that we do all we can to keep our schools and continue to keep our schools into a safe environment. So I am welcome to answer any questions that you may have. Or
Ms. Ains, what do you think about the late March, early April, that they're predicting the big surge? Do you think it will affect us in any way?
So we have our state calls every Tuesday, and so far what we are hearing is, yes, we anticipate there to be a surge in the spring. We also anticipate that to be the UK strand, so that with that, of course, there are complications, but we do know that it looks like the vaccine does work against that. So to vaccinate as many people as we can before that is the majority of our citizens are overtaken by that strain.
So our teachers should be vaccinated by that time with say it's Moderna, so it's 4 weeks between, and then so we should have the majority of them done.
So the full vaccination happens 2 weeks after your second dose.
So 6 weeks period.
6 weeks period, and then 2 weeks after your second dose, if you do come in contact with a positive case, you do not have to quarantine again. So there's some protection in that, and that certainly helps hopefully with staffing, because that is something right now, right, is having just a quarantine. And so 2 weeks after that, if you are in contact with someone that is positive, right now it's a duration of 3 months. You're within a 3-month span after you've been fully vaccinated, and it's 2 weeks after your second doses. You will not have to quarantine. We anticipate that 3-month span to be lengthened. It's just kind of a beginning spot for CDC, but we anticipate that to be lengthened.
You hear all this about a lot of people are not taking the vaccine. What would be the effects of that if like 50% don't take it? What do we do then?
Well, we wear masks a whole lot longer, is what we do. So that's, that light at the end of the tunnel. Vaccination's a way to getting there, that herd immunity and trying to do what we can. That's our quickest way. The more people that wear masks, keep that social distancing, hand washing, and vaccination, that's how we end this. Absolutely.
Dr. Mosley, if I could just ask a quick question. There's been a lot of discussion lately about the bill passed in the legislature about putting kids back into school. I think every school system is going to have a different way of looking at that. But my question to you is, as I read through it, it seems like to me we're already doing here in Surry County what was
Yes.
proposed. So there would have been really no change for us anyway if that had been
No.
signed. But I do know Charlotte, the bigger cities, that would have been a major.
Yes.
Major
I'm
problem.
so proud of Surry County and our school systems and the way they've done it right. We've actually been an example for some of our larger ones. I think sometimes the larger the system, maybe the more voices that they hear, but really basing that on science and evidence. And Dr. Reeves is notorious for asking those questions. He thinks I have a crystal ball, but I don't. But I love the way that he goes after the science and really tries to peel back that onion to see what's in there and how we can learn and keep our kids going forward. And he's done a phenomenal job with that. So, no, you guys with the support of you all behind him, Surry County has been A+ this whole time.
So I guess it's not a good idea for me to ask you when we can go back full time with no crystal ball.
Right, no crystal ball. I think that's it. Help me vaccinate these people, get these people to get this vaccine, so we can get back to our normalcy. I don't know what our new normalcy will. We'll have a new baseline when we're. I think that we'll probably never have another snow day, right? Going forward, we'll have to see what that looks like. We'll do remote.
We've heard that already.
Yep.
We had one. We had one last
we
week.
did.
It's nice just to have those old fashions, whether Mother Nature cooperates or not, right?
But I would like to say personally, I know you hear a lot of people, and I've seen that process that you guys have got over at the farmers market. It's great. But I personally, my whole life either works for or goes to Surry County Schools. So I want to thank you and our nurses for you've made such a difference, and it personally means something to me. Not just it's not a hollow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. They're so kind. They're so kind. The community has been so warm and so welcoming, and goodness, we've had donuts and sweets from across the state of North Carolina. We may gain 15 pounds by the time all this is over with. We'll have to do some extra running, but thank you for those kind words. It does our heart good because we want to take care of citizens. We want this to end. We want normalcy back for our kids and for our elderly that want to see their grandbabies, and for so many people that are scared. And so this, we want to protect our loved ones. Oftentimes public health is kind of in the background, like this quiet little thing that you don't really hear about. And this has really been public health's time to shine and kind of step forward. And so we are so proud to be able to do that for our community.
You have done it well, and
you.
we've heard nothing but compliments from our employees and folks, and we appreciate the extra lobbying that went on to get the state to move teachers up, and we know that some of that came from our local health department and from our superintendent's association and from our school boards association. So, and among my age group, I have heard nothing but compliments about the process and how you have handled it. So we're most appreciative, and couldn't have done it without you, and wouldn't be where we are without you. And if we can continue this partnership, it will be for the betterment of all of our children.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's our pleasure. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
those kind words. Thank you.
It's nice not to see the long lines we see all over the country.
Yeah.
Y'all have a good organization going there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We've tried. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha, and your team. You have been gracious, and we do appreciate your guidance and direction. And as Mr. Vice said, there's been a lot of gray areas, and we've had to figure those out together. But truly, we know that we're going to get an answer when we call, so we really appreciate that. And I do believe this partnership just creates other partnerships in the future, and where we can grow and get stronger, we certainly will.
Absolutely. We welcome it. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye, Maggie. And continuing our COVID-19 conversation, Dr. Reeves, I think we're ready for your group update.
So as you know, board members, we have our COVID-19 monthly board update. As far as you heard Ms. Ainge talk about all the work they've done, our second mass vaccination day will be March 24th. That is a Wednesday. So the way Samantha and her team have the vaccination clinics running They do first shots of Moderna and Pfizer on a Thursday, and they do second round shots on a Wednesday. And that's the way they've organized it. In talking to her about trying to move that second shot to a Friday, it's just not feasible to be able to do that. So what I'm saying is this: we need an early release day on March 24th. The over 500 employees that received the vaccination on the first round have the same exact appointment time for the second round, just same day, same place, same time, or different day, but same time, same place. And then based on some of the reactions from the second dose and some of the side effects, in which some of our school nurses that are given the antigen test have already received their second dose, we believe we need a remote learning day on Thursday, March 25th. With over 500 employees being vaccinated, we are concerned if we were to have a number that could not report to work, it would be difficult to find the amount of substitutes needed in one given day all across the district. So I'm asking you to, again, edit the calendar, make another change, complete an early release day on March 24th and a remote learning day on March 25th. This will impact our B students, cohort B, and for that, I don't know that there's any other way that we can make this happen, but I do believe it is the best decision for our district.
Mrs. Sutton?
Would they make up be on Friday, or does Friday remain remote as well?
Friday would remain remote as well.
Okay.
I do believe there's still a possibility that the side effects of the shot could remain until Friday.
Yeah.
But the uncertainty, I would be concerned, and I do know just based on the small group of employees that received the second dose the first time with the antigen testing, those because they were in phase 1, I am concerned about the numbers of people that may have some mild side effects from the second dose.
Dr. Reeves, what percentage do we have take the vaccine of
That's-
our employees?
That's a hard question to answer, Mr. Coe. I think we have well over 50% of our employees that have been vaccinated. There's been three phases. 65 and older were in that group, phase 1 or group 1, I think it was called. And then because we're doing the antigen testing, anyone that was administering the antigen test, they were also considered in the healthcare worker group. And so the nurses that are given the antigen test were eligible. And then we have many principals who are also backups, so they were eligible to receive that vaccine. And then as we have gone through this process, we have found many other employees that have already received the vaccination, not necessarily through group 1, through the health department, but just through another entity, and we were not involved. So it's hard for us to know exactly how many employees have been vaccinated, but we know over 500 received their first vaccination in the mass vaccination last week, along with the others that have already received it in those two groups. So I feel confident we're probably going to be somewhere around 60%, Mr. Vi?
Yes, sir.
That we're aware of, Mr. Coe, and so I think we'll be north of 60%.
All right, any other questions about those calendar changes? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Badgett, do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mrs. Sutphen, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Dr. Reeves, I think that's a smart move.
Yes.
We will begin communicating that very soon. Dr. Danley?
Good evening, board members. We had to reschedule our last session with Dr. Scoggin for coping with COVID fatigue and anxiety, which will be this Friday, March 5th at 1 o'clock. Has been very well attended by staff members. Mr. Scoggin did have a little technical difficulties last time, but he and I are meeting early this week, and we will be able to record it, so all staff members will have the opportunity to view it. Everything else in my block there I listed for our records, but I believe are on our agenda as well.
Mr. Byer?
Just information, we had some employees who could not get their first vaccination this past week. And so there's a makeup, will be this week. So we sent out a form again to employees who did not receive it last week, who would like to get it this week. We'll have the opportunity this Thursday.
So, Mr. Coe, we have over 30 employees just in that makeup group, and that was as of today, so we
Yes.
anticipate that number going up. I don't know if you've gotten more.
It closed off I haven't looked at the
Okay.
numbers, but we had to close it so we give those numbers to the health department. But it was close to 40 when I left.
Okay. So, I do want to say this about Samantha. She's worked with not only Surry County Schools, but Mount Airy and Elkin to make sure that all could be vaccinated the same day, same week. And through that partnership, she had to go through Northern Regional Hospital, Hugh Chatham Memorial Hospital, High Country Health in Elkin. Multiple partners had to kind of pool their vaccinations so that all of our employees could be vaccinated the same week and the same day. Actually, 2 days for us, 1 day for the other school systems. But that took a lot of work on her part, and simply it could have been pushed off, but she has prioritized our school systems throughout this pandemic, and for that, again, very appreciative.
And that's not happened everywhere.
No,
So
it's not.
They've done a fabulous job. Thank you. Dr. Danley, you have some good data for us and some data that we are concerned about, but also expecting, but some that looks good.
Yes, ma'am. So, Board of Education, we have finished our third grade Read to Achieve middle of the year assessments. These students have had multiple opportunities to meet their pathway. We're talking, the first block is just our third graders. They took the beginning of grade 3 test in October. They have taken 2 iReady diagnostics and had M-class assessments. And our current data, you see there in March 2021, we're sitting at 54%, which is right where we need to be with our third grade. If you look at our historical data, I just put it all the way back from 2015. Please note that those we have gotten better, even though the numbers may decrease. Our assessment is tighter. We're trained, our teachers are trained to make sure we get that true data there. So I feel good about where we're sitting with our third graders. They do have more opportunities this year to meet that pathway. We will have end-of-year assessments and, of course, EOGs. And then if they don't meet those pathways, they have opportunities in our summer reading camp. Also, you asked about some other data points for our kindergarten, first and second graders. You see, this is just one measurement. This is our Amplify Reading 3D data for text reading comprehension. This is when our students read a book orally to our teachers, and they answer oral questions for them. And I see, you'll notice our numbers have decreased. I think that's just because our students miss school. Our first graders missed an important part of kindergarten, the last quarter of kindergarten, and when they really do begin to put their sounds together and make words and rhyme words, and then our current kindergarten class. And so I'm pleased our principals, I am personally meeting with all of our teachers and PLCs, and our principals are having data talks. We are really going into what each individual child needs in their progression of reading. I've had lots of conversations about our flexible guided reading groups and how we can do that safely within social distancing to help our students be better readers. And our Title I program requires us to have spring parent-family engagement sessions. We'll offer those virtual and some face-to-face opportunities to give parents some support on how to help their children be better readers. And one thing I have worked on and talked to our principals, we want to include kindergarten in our summer reading program. We know those students, our youngest learners, they will benefit from having those expert teachers to work with them during the summer. I'll also work with our principals on summer reading plans.
Thank you. Ms. Sutton?
So if we look at last year's data, the 1920, and where they were middle of the year, where did they end up at the end of the year? So how far do we need to go now? Kindergarten, we're at 21%. Where did we end last year to know where we need to get to?
So we did not complete end-of-year assessments.
True. So we have
So
nothing to know.
This is the best I've got. This is what we,
And was 1920 the first year we had M class?
No, I could pull 2 year ago data for your, I would have some third grade and some second grade. I could go to 2018 EOY and pull that.
Do we expect, is it typically 80-90%? I mean, just a guess.
We try to be between 75 and 80 percent at each of those. We do. So we've got a ways to go, improvement every day.
I think Dr. Danley hit the nail on the head when she said it's the time they missed at the end of last year that has caused the concern, because especially in those lower grades, the emergency remote learning was, well, you know, you have one that age, and it just wasn't extremely effective. The planned remote learning is a little more effective, but still we know that those children really need to be in school.
Yeah.
Deanna, did you say you want all the kindergartners for the summer school?
So I would like to offer opportunity. We know the Read to Achieve law does not include current kindergarten in that legislation. So I feel it would be our due diligence. You know, we don't require parents to send them, but I feel like we need to provide that opportunity if parents want them to come. I think I've included that in our plan for summer learning. I just feel like we just somehow, some way, I've got to, in my heart, we've just got to offer it to them.
Yeah, I think there's going to be funding available to make that happen, so that we can expand summer opportunities. Actually, some of it's going to be required, I think, but
is there going to be any money with it required?
I do think there is some funding that's coming not
through.
just from the from the
Can
federal
you use some
level
of
and
the
the
COVID
state
money for
level.
that?
We can use the ESSER $2 for the summer school, summer makeup, and we can also, the Read to Achieve summer camp money can be applied to our summer school plan. Obviously, there is a summer school bill that is being floated right now, House Bill 82. I'm not in favor of House Bill 82 because of the prescriptive nature. We've been planning summer school, summer sessions. I'm just not in favor of them telling me what I have to do and then legislating that it has to be fun. We try to make it fun, but it's now in the law that it has to be fun. I don't know how we're going to measure fun. There you go. So we'll probably put some kind of running program in it. That would be fun. I mean, right? That's fun for me, but it may not be fun for other people, right? So that's
Might not
just
be fun for me.
okay. I'll be quiet. We are working on a plan, but that the House Bill 82 has 6 weeks of summer instruction, 5 days per week. We're all about time. I think what you see here is we need time with our students. However, we also have to think that we've got to have highly qualified teachers in these roles, and I'm not certain we can put great teachers in these roles for 6 consecutive weeks, given all that we've come through the past 12 months. Our teachers are spent. I realize that. You realize that. And I think we do have to be mindful of that. And I think we have to plan in accordance. So I do believe all good things in moderation, and so we probably need to scale that back just a bit. Typically, we've done summer camps, we've had reading camps, it's been 72 hours of instruction. Give us the flexibility. We'll make this work. Give us the flexibility. That's all we're asking for. But to your point, I think Mr. Coe, is there is no money tied to House Bill 82. It's just they're dictating how we use our money. That money also has to carry us for 18 months. So I think, if we spend all of it in the first summer, what are we going to have left the remaining time? I do think we have to be careful about that. We definitely need to get these kids caught up as soon as we can.
Are you gonna make it available for all first graders also, or?
Yes, sir. In Read to Achieve law, it states that anyone who's below grade level, and then as spots are available, you can fill those spots for parents who have interest. And I've always worked with parents if they want their kids to come. I don't even, the years I've been doing this, we just make a way for them. So no, it's that important.
Are we gonna have summer school all the way up, K-12?
Actually, some of that's on the
It's on the
agenda in
agenda.
just a few minutes.
Oh, I'm jumping up ahead.
You're ahead.
I went over this agenda, I tell you.
I know, you're just thinking ahead, and that's good.
I have another question. You talked about how teachers are reaching out to parents to set meetings in the spring. How receptive have parents been so far? Because we had parent meetings, leading into this new semester. What more can we be doing? Should we be doing? How can we be advocates to parents to?
So our Title I plan requires us to do parent-family engagement. We've always had to have things like that. Our principals are working for how we can continue to support their students with reading, math, social emotional learning. I know Mrs. Llewellyn is working with principals to make sure that we provide a way. So that's something we have always had to do. And then I think having this important data point now, report cards will be going out soon. Conversations about exactly what we can do specifically to help each student grow. Is what I anticipate. It'll be every principal develops that plan based on the needs of their school.
I think we all of us on this board want our kids back in school as quick as we can, but I tell you, that data, if that doesn't show you our first 3 years are critical, not only to the information they learn, but learning how to learn.
Yep.
That's when it's formed. And but I think we've got to be careful here. We all want them back there tomorrow. You don't fix this in 6 weeks or 12 weeks. It's going to take some time.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Danley? Thank you for your work with reading, and to all the folks who also work with you side by side. Our Read to Achieve camps are very successful, and we're going to need a little more success out of them this year, it looks like. Okay. On to one of our other favorite topics, Mr. Goins and Mr. Atkins, the calendar.
Yeah, while Mr. Atkins is coming up, I'll just make a couple of comments. And the committee did meet twice, and after the first meeting, some of the members went back and got input from principals and teachers, and I think some of the county officials. And hopefully, we'd like to get the start date of the 9th. That would be for teachers, and the 16th for the students. And I think there's some calendar bills going on in Raleigh, and we don't know what's going to happen. And it would be wonderful if we could just start school when we wanted to, or maybe align it with the community college. But if we have to go with the students starting the 23rd, then we won't be able to get the exams in before Christmas. I believe that's and Neil can allude to these intricate parts. I don't have a grasp of all these colors right now.
When you look at it as much as I do, you kind of memorize them and see it in your sleep sometimes, Clark. So, so board members, I have 3 calendars for you tonight that the committee has recommended that you approve. One of those is an August 16th traditional school start date. We also have an August the 23rd start date calendar for traditional schools, And then, of course, we have a Surry early college calendar. So I would like to start with the August 16th start date. I'll give you the highlights of those of each calendar and then let you ask questions that you may have. The first thing you'll notice with the August the 16th start date, it's very similar to the calendar that we're operating on this year. It has an 87-day first semester, a 93-day second semester, and with this calendar, we are able to administer high school exams before the Christmas break, which is really important. You'll notice that the holiday break around Christmas is a little shorter, and that was to be able to give those exams. There's a work day in between the first and second semester for high school teachers on January the 3rd. You'll notice in March, you see all the pink days in March. That would be spring break, which aligns with the spring break at Surry Community College in the spring of 2022. Moving forward into the calendar, we built in a 4-day weekend around the Easter holiday again in April. And then the last day of school would be scheduled for May the 26th on a Thursday. Do you have questions about the August 16th start date calendar? Okay, we'll move on to August the 23rd, and it's amazing how much a week affects this whole process. But you would see teachers would return August the 16th. The first day of school would be August the 23rd. September, October, November look very similar. You would notice this calendar has an 88-day first semester and a 92-day second semester. The last day of the first semester would be January the 14th. So first semester exams would happen January the 10th through the 14th with this calendar. We also, since with this start date, we're unable to get the first semester complete prior to Christmas, so you'll notice that the Christmas break is longer in this calendar versus the August 16th first start date. The day after the Martin Luther King holiday is a work day. That would be in between the first and second semester. It'd be a work day for high school teachers, with the first day of the second semester being January the 19th. If you look ahead to March, again, we talked a lot in the committee that we've got people that are accustomed to and are really bought into us aligning our spring break with Surry Community College, and we've committed to keeping that there. April, again, we would have a 4-day weekend around the Easter holiday, and then you would notice school would extend on into June, with the last day of school being Wednesday, June the 8th. Any questions about the August 23rd start date?
How much shorter does it make this semester if there's any way to push it through?
We have right now 10 days in January that are considered part of the second semester on this calendar. So we could take, if we took those 10 days away, that gets us to 78 in the first semester. Well, then we could add back in possibly the 20th, the 21st, and 22nd of December, which would get us to 81. And then from there, Ms. Sutphen, we could find maybe September the 24th might give us another day and get us to 82. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, if you look in August, we have to take Labor Day. Mm-hmm. October the 8th is a Surry County holiday. It's Autumn Leaves Weekend.
Exactly.
If we have it, yeah.
And then you have Veterans Day and then the Thanksgiving holiday. So I think the best we could do with an August 23rd start date is an 82-day first semester, which would be pretty short for high school teachers.
It would be. Okay.
Okay.
I have to say, I'm new to the board and I'm a little naive on this, but I see no rational, no educational purpose at all for somebody in Raleigh telling us when we can start our school year when we know what's best for our kids.
Right.
And I know that wouldn't matter to one person in Raleigh today that I said that. But I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of them telling us how to teach our kids.
Right.
Well, the good news for tonight is that we are just putting these on the table for comments prior to the next meeting. So you can share those comments with anyone you would like, with
I've got
all of
3
our
or 4 that
blessing,
I
I'm
will.
sure.
Yes, thank you.
We'll give you the next 30 days to share that widely, because we agree.
Mr. Badgett, the reason you have 2 calendars is, in a perfect world, I think we'd probably bring kids back August the 9th, and that would give us 90 and 90. We'd have a little more flexibility, but all we're asking for is 5 days to start students on the 16th. If we can get to the 16th, we can make this calendar work. It's not great, we can make it work. And obviously you see what the 23rd. Now, under the current calendar law, Mr. Johnson and I have looked at this several times. August 23rd is when we're legislated to start. So we brought you 2 calendars tonight to look at and potentially adopt both. That way we're sending a message to parents that the earliest we could start would be the 16th if we were given some legislative flexibility. And so I have spoken to Representative Hall. He is in the process of running a calendar bill, a local calendar bill for Surry County and some neighboring counties that would allow us to align with the local community college. They're starting that week of the 16th. With Surry Yadkin Works, with CCP enrollment, it just makes logic that we could start and certainly get those students well on their way with semester 1 before Christmas, semester 2 after. So I'm working behind the scenes with Representative Hall, and I'm optimistic, as Dr. Danley pointed out, the situation with students. And wouldn't it be nice if we could bring some of those kinders and first graders back 2 or 3 weeks in August? Wouldn't that be nice? If we had that flexibility to extend the school year, maybe 20 days. We have that money and that ESSER 2 funds. We've got some money where we could do some creative things, but the calendar keeps stepping on our toes and just keeps holding us back year in and year out. And if anything, this year is the year that we need more flexibility to be able to dictate when this calendar actually starts. But we're working on it. Mr. Johnson, is there anything you would like to add?
Good summary.
Okay.
And I would say, I'm sure there's a lot of elementary and middle school parents out there that says, you know what, it's no big deal. So what, we come back in January. But having taught those high school students for several years, the challenge of them coming back and then having 2 weeks and taking exams, it's just, some just are not going to be successful. It's not just on the teachers, it's the students that this has an impact on. And I've lived through it. I've done it both ways. So much better with early start.
And we've seen an increase in our CCP enrollment over the last 2 years with this calendar, where we've been able to align first semester and second semester. That's a big deal. Second semester is getting aligned with colleges. Last year, Mr. Atkins, we were right at 4,500 college credits.
Give or take, yes. Very
4,500, and I got this number right. $400,000 in tuition savings for the parents of Surry County. So, and that's up. That's up over 300,000 when we were about 3,900 credits, which is where we were before we were able to get semester 1 aligned and semester 2 aligned. So we've got some data, if people want to ask to look for it, we'd be glad to provide the data just to show how the calendar is making a difference, not only for students, but for parents, and then in turn, the economy.
Thank you.
Okay, if you'd like, we'll review the early college draft quickly. And you'll notice that the August 23rd start date doesn't apply to the early college, so we can bring their teachers back on August the 2nd, with their first day being on August the 9th. They have an 88-day first semester, a 92-day second semester. You'll notice it looks pretty similar in a lot of ways there. A nice long break at the holiday, a work day on January the 3rd between semesters. Of course, we aligned them with Surry Community College's spring break, and a 4-day weekend around the Easter holiday. We also ensure that if you look at a light blue day like November the 5th, that's an early release day where PLCs across the district can work together. Those are aligned on the traditional school calendar and the early college calendar, because a lot of times we want our early college teachers to be able to collaborate with folks at our traditional high schools as well. And in this calendar for the early college, May the 25th would be their last day of school. Are there questions on this calendar?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. We'll acknowledge receipt and look at these again next month after we see what type of comments you get back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And as Dr. Reeves said, one of the things we are looking at is maybe adopting 2 calendars pending. Then we'd be prepared pending legislation that might allow us to move a little more closely in the direction we want to move. Thank you for your work on that.
You're welcome.
I think you're still up there.
Right. So last week we got some information from the United States Education Department that regarding offering a waiver to states in regards to accountability. And I have a document attached there for you that summarized what we've learned. Friday afternoon, while we had our calendar committee meeting, Regina Richardson attended a webinar that DPI hosted, and we learned a little more. So I'll go through these bulleted items, tell you what we know, how that applies to North Carolina, and then one of the points is we don't know everything right now, so some of it's coming pretty soon. But if we'll start at the top of this page, states are going to be allowed to request a waiver for this school year from accountability and school identification requirements of ESSA. So what that means is there'll be no reporting of progress towards long-term goals or interim progress of subgroups. The academic achievement indicator will not be affected by failure to test 95% of eligible students. And I think the easiest way to think about that is in the past, if a school didn't reach that 95% threshold of testing students on any particular test, then they changed the denominator and actually lowered a proficiency. So that's not going to be an issue. I am happy to say that our high schools performed really, really well in the first semester, and as a district, we reached that 95% threshold, even in the times that we're giving these tests now. So I was really happy about that. There will be no new CSI, TSI. CSI is comprehensive support and intervention, TSI, targeted support and intervention, and then ATSI is additional targeted and support intervention schools. This is a federal designation that came about a few years ago. There will be no new schools identified based on data from this school year. Now, what does that mean for schools that are currently identified? Previously identified schools in those categories are going to remain in that status for the 2021-2022 school year. Schools will again be identified in one of those categories in the fall of 2022 based on data from next school year. So basically that whole process is just put on hold right now. School report cards will still be required, including reporting all data by student subgroup. The philosophy is transparency is still important. Even though there may not be the accountability attached to it, it's still important. Schools are going to be required to report chronic absenteeism data. We don't know what form that'll be in yet, but that'll be something we have to report. Schools are going to be required to report on student and teacher access to technology and high-speed internet access at home. Okay? What that means for North Carolina, if you look at assessments, the U.S. Department of Education had said states may consider a shortened version of statewide assessments. Dr. Howard, the accountability chief for DPI, said North Carolina will not offer shorter assessments. She said that's just out of the question, not going to happen. The government's also allowing states to apply for and offer remote test administration where feasible. And again, Dr. Howard said no state-required tests will be allowed to be administered remotely. They are going to allow us to extend the testing window. Right now for EOGs, the testing window is the last 10 days of school. For EOCs, the testing window is the last 5 days of school. The only thing we know right now is we think they're going to extend it. We just don't know the earliest date we can begin testing in North Carolina. That's going to be available soon. Now, they're telling us you can test kids all the way up till July the 5th. We don't really want to do that. We want to get the masses tested before they go home for the summer. EOCs will still count as 20% of a student's final grade unless the General Assembly votes to make a change. Dr. Howard, we're not sure if EVOS growth data will be available at the school level or at the teacher level at this time. And then her words were, we don't really have anything on Read to Achieve right now, more to come on that soon. The presentation went through next steps. Of course, DPI is going to complete that waiver template. It'll be published and out for public comment for 30 days, and then they'll submit that waiver to the Department of Education. And then the DPI is also planning to submit a waiver to the North Carolina General Assembly because the school performance grades accountability model is still in state statute at this time. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
So my first question was, at the very beginning, it says states may. Down at the bottom, you're telling us they are going to request
They are
a waiver.
going to,
Good.
yes. Yes.
And then the other is, are they going to be able to get all that done between now and the end of the year? If they wait 30 days for comment, they've got to write the waiver request?
I
We're in
worry
March.
some about testing windows and things like that, Mr. Badgett, only because, yes, that's going, 30 days from now, we're going to be into April.
Right.
Okay, and then our windows are going to open in mid-May,
Mhm.
so I worry about that a little bit. I think that's a valid question, but I don't know the answer to it either.
Okay.
Something you said about the EVOS data being available at school level and teacher or
Right.
class level, I guess.
Right.
It's typically available to both.
Yeah,
To the school level, look at it, and then they drill down.
Yeah, you
Okay.
could look at it at a district level, a school
Yeah.
level, a grade level, a content area level. They just don't know where, if they're going to take this year's data and EVOS data is growth data, and they compare it across the state. And my assumption is that there are so many varied instructional models going on across the state that the wonder may be, is it really valid? There's always been a question of how valid it is, but is it really valid when students in our county have been in class 4 days a week since October, and students in Charlotte Meck, I'll pick somewhere,
Yeah,
may not have seen a classroom yet.
okay,
So
okay, thank you for explaining that.
They'll have some issues with EVOS data too, because you didn't test last spring.
right.
So you don't have the comparison test to look at some of the prefactors that
And
are.
that's a good example, Dr. Mosley, for example. I get, elementary principals, we've had the discussion, they say, I don't have any projections for my fourth grade
Right.
students. Well, the this year's fourth graders haven't taken a test since the BOG in third grade, so they don't have any previous year's data to base that growth on.
And I think that the Department of Education waiver to not use test scores and accountability is a good one, but I think it's also important that we have an assessment of where our children are, so we know where we need to move them.
Yes.
And how we need to move them forward, and how long will that take. And I think that's the big challenge for our educators right now. And to not be penalized is a great thing and the right thing to do, but we need some type of assessment to know
I agree.
where is a child and where do we need to take them. So
Yes.
a lot more work to be done, but I'm glad they came to that conclusion that they're not going to turn around and shake their finger at you.
Right. I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Danley, I think you have some information to share with the board.
Yes, so I would like to share information about our school level tutoring plans. I've had lots of questions from principals about their funds for using tutors, what's current research say, and really making it effective for our kids. We know kids need extra help. And so I just wanted to make sure that we had alignment across our district, across all schools. And many schools have tutors as an action step in their school improvement plan, and we need to know if it's effective. So how are we tracking our student data? Is the tutoring, is it being effective? How tutoring aligns with our MTSS process? Are we training our tutors? Are they getting the same, some of the same training? We're asking them to work with struggling learners. Are we training them? Are we giving them the support? I love schedules, so a schedule is good. But really, how are we tracking the student data and progress data? In many of our federal program monies that we have gotten, we have to report on this data. Our GEAR funding requires for us to report on it, and so I would like to also thank Ms. Llewellyn and Mrs. Flippin for looking over this and helping as well. And I just think it will continue to strengthen our practice in our district. And I also shared this with our curriculum committee.
And the curriculum committee did look at these and approve them. And Dr. Danley and I had a little email conversation that we felt like the board had not seen these for a long time. And so, with Mr. Badgett, you're new on the board, so that you would be aware of what those guidelines were, that we needed to put those out there so you could have them to review. So, you have any questions for Dr. Danley?
How many tutors are we bringing into the schools comparatively?
So, that is a question that I do not know at this time. That's another reason I want to collect the school level plans. I know a few schools we've approved on board agendas, but I can't even answer that question. So I just want to, monitor and see what's going on, how we're using this, and to get some data to track it and see, because I can't answer that question. So I'll work with principals to get a school plan so we can find that information out.
Right. Okay.
We don't have as many, I'm sure, as we had pre-COVID.
Right. Exactly. With it being
of
COVID and
changes.
less people coming in, I was wondering if any are. Okay.
And elementary tends to have more because they have Title I funds to supplement their tutoring funds. So they tend to have more on a regular basis. But it's a good question, and I appreciate the work you put into this. And also the student retention guidelines, because that's going to be a big hot topic.
So student retention, I just wanted to bring it to the forefront and really just make some alignment to our board policy and bring that back in front of our principals and remind them of processes and procedures. And ultimately, I personally have been spending time in the research of retention because it has negative impacts on students. If we track students who don't graduate from high school, you can look, lots of times retention is a part of that record. So I like to use the term, let's be preventive and let's intervene so that we don't retain. And that's just my personal philosophy, but also if we read the research very closely, it also aligns with that. And just to make sure we bring parents along the way. I don't want to come to the end of May and parents be surprised. These conversations need to happen, and there are lots of different metrics to look at when considering retaining a student. So I tried to outline some guidelines and a process of how we would work with parents and teachers if we were going to consider student retention. Again, worked with Mrs. Llewellyn and Mrs. Flippin to look at our EL students and our EC students and making sure that we were following our guidelines within those programs as well. One thing that I included is some discussion questions to help guide the school team about student promotion. We need to look at the whole picture of a student, historical data of a student, not just COVID year. And we have always, as long as I've been here, used a Lights retention scale. And that looks at all areas, looks at the whole child when considering retention. And then just making sure that we're following our board policy. I'll need to be included in these decisions as well as the school team. And then parents, we are required to inform parents in writing if a child is retained. So just to put it back in front of our principals and make sure that our process and guidelines are followed. And again, I work with Dr. Mosley and the curriculum committee on this agenda item.
Any questions?
You know I do.
That's okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
That's why it's on there, because
Yes.
you hadn't
Thank you.
seen it, and we felt like it was something that needed to come back before the board so that you're familiar, because you may
Yeah.
get a phone call from someone too.
Thank you. No, I really like how you've laid it out, first quarter, second quarter, what to expect. So I'm just curious, how much have we done so far for this school year? What are we looking at?
So the good thing is
Mhm.
the process for first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, that has not, that's not ever changed. We've always had, by policy, had to identify at-risk students of failure, academic failure, and really looking. Our first quarter deadlines may be a little bit behind, but we met with parents and had parent conferences.
Okay.
And then, we had parent conferences again in January, and that's when we had those mid-year at-risk letters. We've always had an at-risk letter to inform parents of that, and really working on our interventions for students and those plans for students. We've required that every year. So one thing, I really have to add that, I just made it in a timeline for them. So I'll work with principals in the next week, and if we need to get any area we need to get caught up or they're concerned, we still have time prior to the end of May to meet with those parents, but it needs to happen very quickly.
How does this year's
Deanne? Oh, I'm sorry.
how does this year's numbers compare to last year?
I haven't
You know yet?
collected any data,
Okay.
but I'll tell you what I'm hearing from principals. Dr. Reeves and I were hearing this too when we were visiting schools. Lots of absenteeism,
Yeah.
lots of absences from, and some from remote learners too. That's definitely a big concern for our principals, just students not completing work or just checking out, not doing anything. So that's what I'm hearing from our principals. That concerns me the most.
Okay.
And I'll say this, the November change to policy that you made
Mhm.
regarding attendance and remote learning our principals have been very appreciative of that, because it's helped them put some teeth into accountability, and many are utilizing Fridays as home visit days to go out and meet with parents and students to try to either, one, ask the question, why aren't you doing the work? Show me why you can't log in. It's
Mhm.
again, accountability. And, well, if you're not being successful at home, you need to be back at school. So we're seeing our remote learners, the percentage of remote learner students in some schools, it's climbing down, which is a good sign.
Mhm.
So I do believe that policy change has had a positive impact and has helped our principals. And as I've talked to other superintendents across the state, I have shared that policy, because they're also struggling with the same issue with many of their remote learners.
Okay.
We also have brought in our part-time student success coach, Miss Lydia Lavelle, to meet with principals. She was in our debrief 2 weeks ago and just reiterated our process and how she can be helpful going out to make home visits and following up with parents. She also reminded us of the procedures that we all must follow with the letters, phone calls and the documentation in order for her work to be successful and fruitful from the legal accountability system.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you got any idea from principals how much more cases we gonna have this year, Dr. Reeves? As far as failures in high school, middle school, no numbers or percentages you?
I don't have any that I'm prepared to share. I think it would be speculative at this point.
More.
All right, thank you, Dr. Danley.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say the same thing I've said every month. Thank you to everybody for the work that's taking place. The heroes are in the buildings and doing the work with the students. We're just so blessed for the opportunities our students have had, and we'll continue to move forward. And I do appreciate the work that was done in lobbying to get school personnel moved up on the vaccine list or put in priority order. I know that the Superintendent's Association contacted state, School Boards Association contacted the state. A lot of people have been working on that behind the scenes, and I know that our local Surry County Health and Nutrition Center was on top of that in lobbying to make sure our school personnel could get moved up on the vaccine list. So appreciate everybody's work on that. Thank you. I know Dr. Reeves was instrumental in that, and I hope, I'm almost positive that I can say that our folks do appreciate it. I saw a lot of comments, and almost everything's positive. So thank you for your work on that.
You're welcome.
And I'll turn it over to you.
Dr. Mosley, there is one bit of business in your report that the board will need to take action on.
Okay, I missed it. Oh, we do. We need to pass approval for training for Mrs. Mamie Sutphin from the North Carolina State Ethics Commission. She took a different course, so if we could have a motion to approve that for board credit.
I'll make that motion.
Motion,
Haven't just
Ms.
taken it.
Thank you.
Motion from Mr. Badger. Do I have a second?
Thank you.
Second from Mr. Coe. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
If I
opposed?
don't vote,
And Mrs. Sutphin abstained.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thank you for taking your time personally to take care of that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sorry I missed it the first time.
And Mr. Coe, to answer your question, our data managers are collecting that data. Just got a text from Mr. Atkins. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Data managers are collecting, and he's going to work on that tomorrow.
Okay. Well,
So, Dr. Mosley, again, just big appreciation. Some reflections from that day last week down at the farmers market. One of the men that was working the vaccination clinic, of course, they had the emergency EMT were there checking on people after the 15 minutes. And then we had some men that had their hazmat t-shirts on, but they were really a part of the emergency medical group that really are there behind Burger King over in Mount Airy. And a couple of those guys came up to me, and this one guy said, "This is like, these educators are like kids at Christmas." Kids at Christmas. They were that happy. I had many comments, said now I can go see my grandkids, and now I can go see my grandparents, or now I can see my grandchildren. Lots and lots of praise, and certainly very appreciative of how organized the event was. And I told Samantha, I said, you guys have really got this down to a science, and our teachers were so impressed with the way it moved, the way the line moved, and then the way they were processing people along the way. So certainly they've got it down to a science. So that was really a neat day. And then that night we got to cap it off with a home football game at Surry Central. And it almost felt like something normal. Of course, it wasn't normal, but what a joy it was to see our student athletes, cheerleaders, our band, which was playing all percussion instruments, a few fans in the stands. Of course, that night was before the governor lifted the the attendance restrictions the following Friday at 5 p.m. So just a great day in our school system, in our community, and what a great way to cap it off with a win. Surry Central had a big win over West Stokes, first home football game on Thursday night. So it was a nice day in Surry County Schools last Thursday. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Reeves, and thank you for taking your time to go over to the vaccination clinic and sit there and support employees. And we haven't said it enough, but Mr. Vi, thank you for your work in organizing, pulling information, finding people, and getting that organized and set up, you and Carolyn Simpson.
Yes, Carolyn had a big role in it.
Well, she's always been a star.
Yes.
You know, we
Sure.
promote people in the military for great achievements, so maybe you become General COVID.
He's not looking forward to that promotion. Okay, I think we've all had an opportunity to review the items on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion from Mrs. Sutphen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Coe. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will move on to some of our favorite discussions.
Exactly.
Mrs. Sutphen,
What
personnel,
you've all been waiting for.
personnel and policy.
Yes, so in agenda item 7.01 this evening, you have 8 policies with what we would consider substantial reviews. 21 of them are updates based on other changes to other policies that make a change or to general statute. I will touch on a few of them at the bottom of your list. 2120 and 2121. One of the things we made sure we did there was to define family as we talk about conflicts of interest there, with it being immediate family, but that also includes in-laws and step relationships there. The other pieces here are grievance procedures. There is a comment here about training. The last time we had updated this, our training hours were the same, but it was listed as annually. It's now every 2 years that we complete the 12 hours. We did make sure for 3102, we included our own Surry Virtual Academy in addition to the state offering. And then 4135 is a policy that's been updated with regards to tuition for students coming into the county. So the committee did have quite a bit of discussion on that. So we would be putting these forward for recommendation and review for the next 30 days.
All right, thank you. We will acknowledge receipt of these and leave them out for public comment for the next 30 days. But we're not done, aren't we?
We're not. 7.02, there are 13 of these, and these are actually ones that we would want you to approve. Some of these were already operating under this procedure, such as the use of our buildings. Some of them that end in the hundreds, that are a clean number there at the end, those are some of the links that are just lists for you to take a look at. We did update the accept gifts and made sure that this month the version you have did have what that amount is, the $10,000 on there. We talk about social media, mainly to include the different types of platforms. So these are the ones that we would be asking you to approve this evening.
Are you making that in the form of a motion?
That is a motion based on the committee's recommendations.
Thank you, Mrs. Sutphen. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second from Mr. Badgett. All in favor?
Uh-huh.
Any opposed? Thank you. Those had been out for comment for 30 days. All right. Now we'll catch up with Mr. Coe here.
Yep.
Summer school, and it's not all of summer school, it's just part.
Board members, this document, the 2020-21 Summer Program Plan, this is required that we submit to our Regional Accountability Office, and we do that at this time each year. You'll see that we have to identify grade levels that we intend to bring into summer school in grades 4 through 12 and administer either end of grade or end of course tests. And you'll see assessment types this year would be math, science, Math 1, Math 3, English 2, and biology. The state was able to renorm the English 2 test based off of fall 2019 scores. You'll notice there'll be no reading EOG retest this summer because students were unable to take those EOGs last year. In a norming year, it was a new test. So this year now will be a norming year, and we won't get those scores back until August. Okay. The last day for students, you'll see if you go down under summer school program instruction, I worked with Dr. Danley on these dates. You'll see the instructional dates, the number of instructional days, the instructional hours and minutes per day, and then the total number of instructional hours at 56, and then the testing dates for summer school. And these are EOG and EOC based courses that'll have a retest for students who are not proficient.
Anybody have any questions?
And K3 is a separate plan, correct?
Yes.
That would be something else we would
Yes.
differently
Yes,
look at.
yes.
Okay,
I'll
thank
present
you.
that next.
Okay, thank you.
Typically, do we have the students complete one subject, or do you have more than one subject? I mean, 56 hours. is not a
Typically,
lot if it's more
Mr.
than one.
Badgett, some students may only need to attend a math week.
Right. Okay.
Or in this case, an 8th grader could need to come to math and science, and they could do that in separate weeks.
So you would divide that 56 hours
You
in
could,
two?
yes.
Okay.
We try to tailor it to the student, what the student needs, and to make it feasible for them to do.
Any other questions? I entertain a motion to approve the plan.
Motion.
Motion from Mrs. Sutton. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Goins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for your work on that.
Thank
I know
you.
it's challenging to keep them all separate. And I think you might be staying up there.
I
You-
think I've
you-
got one more. I wasn't at the board meeting in February, so I think I'm you know how it comes back.
That's
It's
right. It
coming
comes back to
around
haunt you,
tonight.
doesn't it?
It does.
Okay.
Next, you'll see there's an attachment there. Mr. Brown has gained quotes for us. We have a CTE lab rotation schedule that he and I sit down each year and look at federal money that we budgeted for CTE labs, which are business labs, digital media labs, and Project Lead the Way labs in our middle and high schools. This year, we would like to replace the business labs at East Surry High School and Surry Central High School, the digital media lab at Surry Central High School, and the Project Lead the Way lab at Central Middle School. And those are based on our schedule, the rotation that we have. And I think Mr. Brown, he does a fantastic job of getting these quotes, putting them together. This quote is from a company that's on a state contract. So we would ask that you would approve the purchase of those machines.
Any questions for Mr. Atkins?
When I looked at it over the weekend, I thought there was another vendor listed. Is this a vendor we've used before?
The Trinity 3 is probably,
Yes.
Trinity 3 is now Trafera. It's the same company, different
Okay,
name.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And,
Okay.
when you looked at it over the weekend, I was not at work Friday, just based on the shot and all of that
Sure.
kind of thing. And Mr. Brown got the quote on Friday, so we had to update this form, so I
Okay.
apologize for that.
Okay, that's fine. No, thanks for clarifying.
All right.
And isn't that the same vendor that we purchased the Chromebooks from last month?
Last month,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions? Motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Badgett. Do I have a second?
Second, or Mr. Kay?
Second from Mr. Coe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Atkins, and thank you,
you.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mrs. Donna Bryant, you've been sitting over there quietly all night.
Good evening. Attached to your agenda, you will see the audit contract for 2020-21 school year. I'm requesting your approval of that contract this evening.
Anyone have any questions for Mrs. Bryant on the contract? This is our current auditor. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Goins. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Coe. All in favor? Any opposed? Took care of that one.
We did. The next one's mine as well, so
Yes, ma'am.
I will stay here. So this is a request attached to the agenda, is a proposal from a third-party administrator of our tax sheltered annuity plans, the supplemental ones that employees can elect. And I'll just give you a little background information in case you're not familiar with that. But currently, Plan with Ease is our third-party administrator. And basically what the third-party administrator does is works as a go-between between the employer, Surry County Schools, and our employees who are requesting withdrawals or transfers, and then those companies that have offered the annuities. As you know, the 403B and the 457 plans are highly regulated by the IRS because of their tax savings, and they're intended to be a retirement vehicle rather than like a regular savings account that you can just make withdrawals into and out of easily. So the third-party administrator, those requests are routed through them. And based on our plan document, which is basically the IRS guidelines and regulations for those plans, then they determine if those requests are in compliance, rather than the school district having to do so and being responsible for that, and determining things like if that's a qualifying hardship withdrawal request. So we've been with Plan with Ease probably at least 15 years. We went with them when I was in payroll, and they were brought to us by one of our providers, which is ING. I almost think they were called something different then, but I can't remember. And we have been with Plan with Ease. A couple of things that have prompted my request to make this move is, first of all, Admin Partners would provide us with plan document update guidance. That is something that Plan with Ease does not offer. As the IRS makes changes to the requirements and regulations on those plans, Admin Partners would assist us with making those changes to be sure that we are compliant. They also offer audit services that's included with the proposal should we be the subject of an IRS audit on those transactions. I've also talked with a couple of units, school systems that have partnered with Admin Partners, and their employees are reporting that there is an ease in requesting and receiving approval for those requests. Plan with Ease can be a little bit cumbersome to work through, from what I understand from some of our providers and a few employees. So there is an initial cost with switching to Admin Partners. That is $975. They are willing to waive the other fees, and then there would be a $100 annual fee for them. But I do feel that the benefit, especially ensuring that our plan document is in compliance, is well worth that amount. So I will be happy to answer any questions that I can, and then I would like to request your approval to proceed with that transition.
Questions for Mrs. Bryant?
Go ahead. Within their quote, what does the highlighted piece mean about vendor paid?
So they would pass that. There is a fee for participation in those plans, but there is an agreement that they have already established with different tax sheltered annuity providers, where they tack on that fee to the vendor. So the vendor essentially ends up paying that rather than Surry County Schools.
And rather than this company, they pass it to whoever that vendor is for that?
Yes,
Is
so
how that
like
works.
Horace Mann, for example, they're probably our biggest or most often used provider.
Mhm.
Horace Mann, in order to participate in this, then they pay that
Okay.
to admin partners, so we do not incur that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Donna, will this be any disruption to our employees that are on this, or it'll just, all the paperwork will be taken care of?
It will. They have a plan for transition, you know, that they've used with other districts, and we'll notify employees, and then it'll basically all be behind the scenes, and then just notifying employees of how they'll go about making those requests from admin partners or through admin partners once it's done.
Okay.
So that roughly $7,000 is what I add the two up. How does that compare to what we're paying now?
So it's not $7,000, Mr. Badgett. That's the one-time startup fee of $975.
Right.
But you can see that the vendor is paying the $5,400 and the $510.
Okay.
So the only fee that we will have annually is $100.
Okay.
We are currently not paying anything with Plan With Ease, but we also are not getting the audit support and the plan document update, update assistance.
I'm not sure how I see how they make any money if they're only charging us $100 a year.
They're making it from those vendor payments.
Okay.
They only work with governmental
Okay.
agencies and nonprofits, so that's what they specialize in as well.
So basically, this cost is for us to help almost 200 employees increase their retirement contributions for future use. That's what they're doing, right? For the 403, 457.
Yes, those are optional supplemental plans available to our employees, yes.
Thank
And I do hope as time goes along that we can increase participation in those. That's certainly a benefit to our employees.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Coe. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Badgett. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mrs. Bryant, for looking after everything for us.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Seeing nothing else on the agenda, and we have no need to return to a closed session, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion from Mrs. Sutphen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second
There
from
we go.
Mr. Goins. And I don't think we have any opposition. All in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.